All right, let's hear it for Pete, our next storyteller.
Hi. So about 10 years ago, I got a job working on a morning radio show that was at 6 a.m. in the morning. So I had to be there at 5 a.m. and I had to get up at 4 a.m., which was a real transition for me. Some mornings, my first waking moment, I would open my eyes and I would be driving 70 miles an hour on the highway. I don't remember getting dressed. I don't remember showering. That was my first bit of consciousness. But when I look back on it now, I'm a little bit nostalgic for it because it was the only time in my life where I really got to see sort of that moment at 4:30 where the nighthawks meet the early birds. You know, I used to stop and get coffee at this place, and in front of me you'd have like a bus driver, and behind him a guy with no shirt, tattoos, and a guitar. Behind him, a teacher, and behind him, like two coked up college kids talking about the true meaning of like Lou Reed's lyrics, But you never really knew sort of who was who. And on one morning, I was at an intersection on Franklin, and it was completely silent, dead, no cars, and the windows are down, and I look over, and there's this woman on a bus bench wearing like a white shirt, sneakers, she's got a purse, kind of looks like a nurse, and she's asleep with her arms crossed, waiting for the bus. And all of a sudden, I see her start to drift, and she just falls on her side, wham, onto the cement. And I mean, it really looked painful. And she wakes up, and she's kind of teary-eyed and frightened. And I say to her, are you okay? And I'm thinking I really just should go. No one would ever. I just didn't see it. And she says, shakes her head, and I say, do you think you need to go to a hospital? And she goes, I think my arm is broken. I say, okay, well, why don't you get in? There's a hospital right on the way if I go down Franklin. And so she gets in the car, and on further inspection, I noticed that like the white shirt she's wearing isn't quite as white as it was from far away, and she's wearing sneakers with no socks. And I don't think nurses wear sneakers with no socks. But she's so grateful that I picked her up, and she's saying, oh my God, you're so nice. This is the nicest thing anybody's ever done for me in my whole life. And at first I thought that was a compliment, but later I realized that was really just sort of a warning, And then, we keep driving a little bit, and I say to her, how is your arm feeling? And she says, it feels a little better. It doesn't hurt as much as that time my husband shot me in the face. And that's when I knew she probably wasn't a nurse. And then to punctuate that point, she reached into her purse and pulled out like a flask, just a fifth of some hard liquor, took a sip of it and said, yeah, that guy was a fucking asshole. And now I'm thinking, oh boy, like this is getting to be a little bit scary, and I'm looking for places to maybe drop her off, But it's right on the way, so I'm going to take her to the hospital, and then I'll just go on to work. And we keep driving, and then she sees somebody on a corner that she knows, and she's like, oh, pull over. And it's a prostitute on the corner, but I'm just thinking, she wants to get out, I'll let her out. So we go over, and she rolls down the window, reaches into her purse, hands the prostitute a baggie, comes back in, rolls up the window. And I'm thinking to myself, if a cop saw that, am I going to go to jail for being a pimp or a pusher? Or maybe both, I don't know. But so I say, Linda, that was her name, do you want to get out? Do you want to get out now? And she's like, no, you said you'd take me to the hospital. I'm like, yeah, but it seems like your arm is kind of okay now. And she's like, no, it hurts. It really hurts. And she starts to cry a little bit, and I'm kind of a sucker for girls that cry. And I'm like, okay, it's not much further. It's just 5 blocks. I can drive her there. So we drive a little bit further, and now she starts talking about how it's just this awful story. All these men that have been treated her so badly. She's been married a couple times, and she's talking about how she doesn't get to see her daughter because that fucking caseworker, she won't let me see her until I stop drinking. She won't let me see her until I stop drinking. And I hadn't said anything really much to this point, but for some reason, I decide to say, well, that sounds like a pretty good reason to stop drinking. And I'm telling you, as these words leave my mouth, I see them traveling towards her in slow motion, and I want to just grab them and shove them back in my mouth. But it's too late, and she hears this, and her eyes go cold, and she takes her purse, and she whips it at my head, and it hits my head, bounces up onto my dashboard, and all the contents spill out. All the drugs, the fifth, there's some mace, and and she's screaming at me, what do you know about it? What do you know about it? I'm like, I don't know anything about it, but I'm like sweeping everything off my dashboard because I'm afraid a cop is going to see it, and then she doesn't see her bottle, and she's like, where's my bottle? I need my bottle. And I was like, I just say, Linda, I'm going to get you everything. I'm going to pull over. I'm going to put everything in your purse. I'm going to give it to you. And as I'm gathering the things on the floor, I see blood dripping from my forehead, like from where the purses hit me. And I now got to go to work, you know? So I pick up everything and I give it to Linda, and she doesn't move. And then she looks at me and she says, you want to do something? I'm like, no, Linda, I don't want to do anything. I really need for you to get out of the car now. That's really what needs to happen now. And she's like, no, you said you'd take me to the hospital. And I said, Linda, if you don't get out of the car, I'm going to have to come around and pull you out of the car, and I really don't want to do that. And she says, no, you won't do that. You're too nice a guy. You'd never do that. I'm like, oh, really? And I open the car door, and then she opens her car door. And I'm like, okay, good enough. I shut my door. She shuts her door. I open the door to get out. She gets out. And what happened next I can only describe as like a Laurel and Hardy scene broke out on the corner of Gower and Franklin at 4:30 in the morning. We're just racing all over the place. And now she's hitting me with her purse, and she's screaming, rape, rape! And I'm thinking to myself, if a cop sees this, I am so going to jail. Do not, pass go. And finally, like, I get a hold of her, and I'm sort of pulling her to the side, and I'm sitting her down, and I'm saying, Linda, I'm going to get in the car now, and you have to stay here. And she's going, I know, I fuck up everything, I know, I'm so sorry. But there's nothing I can do now. And I put her on the corner, and I get into the car, and I drive away, and I look in the rearview mirror, and I see her sitting there, and she's crying. And I'm telling you, I really wish that I had taken her to the hospital, because to this day, I can still see her in my rearview mirror, and I can't help but feel that I was really just one of 1,000 guys that left her in the gutter. Thank you.
Pete, everybody.